So the following graph that you see here, it's a graph of f of x, which is given as minus x squared. And then you also see this line which says, which you have y which is equaling to x. And then they start to ask us the following questions. They say, determine the domain and the range of f. What will be the domain of f? We can use the vertical line again if we want to know the domain. Okay, if we use the vertical line, let's try it. But by now, we should have an idea. What do you expect it to be? X is an element of all the real numbers. Okay? So you go from here, and then the first thing that you touch, it's infinity. Okay? Your graph doesn't break, so you touch infinity, and then you also touch what? Infinity. So it means which we can safely say our x is going to be an element of all what? The real numbers. What about the horizontal? If we use the horizontal line, then we are looking for the range. Okay? If we are looking for our range, we'll use the horizontal line, and then we check what is going to be the first thing that we touch here. What is the first thing that you touch? Infinity. And then what is going to be the last thing of the graph that you touch? It's 0. So you can tell them which y should be less than. Again, if you are using inequalities, you can say, okay, y is going to be less or equals to what? To 0. Or you can say which y is an element from negative infinity up until you get to what? To 0. It's up to you, okay? Now, the next question says then, the next question is asking is, they say restrict the domain of f so that the inverse is a function. There are two ways in which we can do it. If we want to restrict this thing, there are two ways in which we can do it. We can either take this arm here, machine. Look at this one, the original one that we're doing here. If I take this one here, I have two options here. I can either take this one whereby x is less than 0. If I take the one with x is less than 0, I'm erasing everything here. Okay. If I erase, let's remove this one, yeah, and then try to erase again. It doesn't want to erase this thing. Okay, remove this one. Sure. My rubber doesn't want to work. Okay, so basically what you're supposed to do here is to take out this arm. If you take out this arm, you can either have x is less than 0. When we say x is less than 0, we say all the values of x are negative only. Or you can take the values which are greater than 0. So you're not going to take both of them. Here, this graph here, x is an element of all real numbers. If you have x is an element of all real numbers, it means which you have x which is less or equals to 0, or you have x which is greater or equals to 0. So if we want to make this to be a function, we are going to restrict f of x. How do we restrict this f of x? We are either going to take this arm here, this part here. If we take that part, what is the restriction? The restriction is going to say x is less or equals to what? To 0. Automatically, if x is going to be less or equals to 0, the inverse range, the range of the inverse is also going to say y is going to be less or equals to what? To 0. So this is for the original function. This is for f of x. This is for f inverse. This is important. Why? You will see it when we do the equation. Again, equation in a plus and a minus. Again, once you restrict it, you can't talk about plus and a minus. You need to take one. It's either going to be taking the positive one or you're going to be taking the one, the negative one. So if they ask you to restrict it, you can take both of them. You can say restrict the domain of the inverse such that it's a function. You can say x is going to be less or equals to 0. If you don't take that one, you're going to tell them what you're going to take. X is going to be greater or equals to what? To 0. And then they say, draw the sketch of the graph according to the restriction that you took. So let's start with the restriction whereby x is less than 0. When I say x is less than 0, on my graph, this is what I'm going to do. When I'm going to put this on my table, look at this. It says it's minus x squared. Okay? Let's remove this one. So I'm going to put a minus here. So you have minus x squared. And then we say equals to. Where do you want to start? We can still start with minus 2. Né? Where do you want to end? You can't end at 2. You're going to end at 0 because you are saying x should be less than 0. So you can't take values which are positive. You're only going to take the values which are what? Which are negative. And equals to. Step, you can leave it as 1. And then you go and plot this thing. Let's come and plot this one. So you have minus 2, it's 4 again. Minus 2, it goes with 4. Huh? -2, -4. Oh, so it's -2, -4. Not a point. So we have -2 and a -4. Okay, sharp. -1, -1, -1. Okay. 0 is to 0 is to 0. And then we are done. Okay. What is this? This is for x is less than. And then you draw this arm here. And then this is your function. What is this function here? It says, this is f, and then x is less or equals to 0. Now, what did they say we should do here? They say we should draw, sketch the graph of the inverse according to the restricted domain. So we're going to draw the inverse, man. What happens if you draw the inverse? Whatever is x is going to become y. Whatever is y is going to become what? X. So let's go to our table. On your table, man, it means you're going to have something like this, man. When now you start with -4 again, and -2, yeah? And then you have -1 and what? And -1. And then you have what? 0 is to 0. Okay, sharp. This is for what? It's for the inverse. Let's go to your inverse. Your inverse is going to look like what? -1, -4, -2. Here. -1, -1. It's here. -0, -0. So, and then you connect the 3 dots. And then it's going to be the inverse. Now, is this inverse a function here? This is what is a function. Don't get me so with counter dimension. If you use the counter dimension, how many times do you stop? You touch it back, and it's a function. Now, I want to only one extend that when you extend that for 65 it's all I'm saying is my equation, how the equation goes to that. That's what I'm interested in. Extension says let's find the equations. How is the equation going to look like? It's this. How is the inverse going to look like? Let's face it. I don't want to do the inverse, but it's just going to become one. So I'm going to have something like this here. Y, which is equal to -x squared. So when you think x is going to be equal to -x squared. And then you divide by minus, divide by minus. It says y squared is going to equal to 2. And then you say root. It's going to get the past in my matter. But what it says in one, try to think is y upon x squared below x.